Let's start here.
The United States can't fix every problematic place in the world.
This, some Americans feel in their bones.
Обстоятельства требуют от нас решительных и незамедлительных действий.
But what Russia's Vladimir Putin is doing to Ukraine can reach America. In fact, some of his efforts already have.
The Russian intervention in the U.S. elections in 2016 is really only part of their capabilities.
Emily Channel Justice is an expert on Ukraine at Harvard. The university has an entire institute that promotes the knowledge of the country. Ukraine has a history of being repressed by its Russian neighbor, way before this new war.
What the high stakes are is that Vladimir Putin is trying to show the world that his version is better. He is an autocrat, and he is basically saying democracy doesn't work, it's a failure, and we will crush it if we don't want you to have it. If we let him do this, we're saying that autocrats can decide how the world works. And in my opinion, that's unacceptable.
Channel Justice says the U.S. is vulnerable to Russian disinformation and cyber attacks.
The influence that Russia might have over U.S. domestic politics, in addition to world politics, that's a real threat that people should be concerned about. To say nothing about his veiled threats about nuclear war.
Putin made the threat in his Wednesday speech, announcing Russia's assault on the sovereign nation.
Not to sow panic at this time, I just think we have been caught underestimating Putin the past 20 years. And I want to make sure we don't do that in the next few days.
And, you know, some of these threats by Russia and concerns by experts who study Russia and Ukraine, they're coming true before our eyes. Just got an alert from one of the Russian news agencies that is saying that if Sweden and Finland join NATO, and Finland indicated that it might want to join NATO as a self-defense mechanism, if those two countries do that, Russia says that it will require action from them. What that means, you can leave it up to imagination, but based on what they're doing in Ukraine, I think we might suspect what that means. Corey.
Yeah, we know that Russian President Putin has had some very harsh words for anyone who is offering to help Ukraine, and he's made that, you know, very apparent over the last couple days. Abo, so you were born in Russia. You still have friends and family in Russia and Ukraine. What's the feel of the Russian people right now?
You know, like always in situations like this, it depends on who you ask, right? I have a friend who believes that the Ukrainians are the aggressors, and then you look at the thousands of people who've taken to the streets in Moscow and St. Petersburg protesting war. So you know, the country is divided, but the part of the country that is able to process information and is, for lack of a better term, not brainwashed, can understand that Russia is the aggressor, and what is happening in Ukraine is despicable, because so many of us are friends with Ukrainians, have friends in Kiev, have friends all over the country. And for me, it's never been us versus them, right? It's all of us together. And now there's that division, that war. That's what war does, and it's ugly and it's disgusting.
And you know, yesterday I heard you talking a little bit about this kind of like, I don't know if it's like an underground thing, but you know, a lot of people in Russia aren't really getting clear information about what's happening, but there is a way that some of them can get that information.
Yes, in order to get really accurate or any sort of balanced information online, if you can get online, is the way to go. There is an independent TV channel that you can only get on the internet. It's called RAIN, in translation from Russian, Dozht, and they provide all kinds of views. It's not state-sanctioned and state-washed propaganda. In fact, they were saying yesterday when I was listening to one of their broadcasts that the Russian government has mandated that its information arm, essentially the news media, only report what the Russian government is saying about this war. And we have seen over the last several days that they've waged this conflict, that information from the Russian government is inaccurate at best.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that some people in Russia feel that Ukraine is the aggressor. I mean, obviously, just a lot of misinformation there. Anastasiya, we miss you. It's so great to see you. I wish we were talking under better circumstances, but we really appreciate your insight.